When I was selling for Lexus just a few years ago, one of the biggest challenges I had was trying to rationalize with the customer why an F Sport version of the RX did not offer any more performance. Eventually, they added adaptive variable suspension, but there were no horsepower gains if you wanted an F Sport. Now, that all changed when they redesigned it for the fifth generation. They now offered a hybrid F Sport performance for the very first time called the RX 500H, which used a 2.4 turbo, an electric motor up front, and a 6-speed auto. So it's still fun to roll through the gears compared to the eCVTs we see on their hybrids and plug-in hybrids. And there's a big electric motor in the back of the RX 500H to give you a better all-wheel drive experience. However, the RX 500H, it's pretty heavy and it is quick, but it's still nowhere close to what their competition from BMW, for just mention BMW with the inline six, they can get in an X5, for example, is just not even in the same category of performance. Ironically, that inline six is in the Supra and the Toyota lineup, right? Well, I do have news today coming from Japan about a next generation hybrid going to be slotted into the RX that is going to absolutely compete with the German competition and possibly beat them in some ways. Guys, if you're excited for finally getting high performance Lexus models, and not necessarily F models. F might be dead. We'll get into that as well today. But if you're excited, make sure to smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed. And check out my ES video on the redesigned ES. I think we're on 7th generation ES now. Anyways, check out my video on the new 2026 ES that I just filmed at Plano at headquarters for Toyota and Lexus this past week. First of all, I mean, this is quite the headline. Morizo RR RX with the 2-liter turbo hybrid. All right, the Morizo RR debuted with the LBX, which is essentially a Corolla that's been given the Lexus treatment, so it's quieter, smoother, everything better than the GR Corolla, but it has the GR Corolla's automatic transmission that I just tested on track, the new 8-speed in the GR Corolla. The LBX RR has it. You know, it's kind of handcrafted by Morizo, aka Akio Toyota, that LBX, and it is a fantastic vehicle from what I understand, but it is a little bit smaller than a Corolla Cross. It's technically on the Yaris's platform, the Yaris Cross's platform, the LBX, but we don't get that vehicle. And this new wave of performance vehicles, no longer probably going to be called F by Lexus, it debuted on a vehicle that's not even globally available. So it was always frustrating. It's been out for probably about a year at this point, the Morizo RR LBX. And the RX sells in heaps stateside. It's like half the Lexus sales, not quite, but guys, it's well over a third. One model, well over a third of the sales of Lexus here in the United States. And so to not have a range-topping performance edition of the RX has always kind of surprised me. I know it's front-wheel drive bias, and that's kind of held Lexus back from implementing rear-wheel drive performance vehicles, but this is no longer going to be the case, okay? You can see the front end here is kind of taking the styling of that LBX Morizo, so I think it actually looks quite good. I think it looks better in some ways than the RX 500H front end. And we'll also talk about the next generation RX here in a little bit because, well, that's awfully exciting, but we're a ways out. So let's get back to this article and get into the English translations. They're targeting 600 horsepower, guys, from a 2-liter turbo hybrid. And the Morizo RR is an electric hyper SUV. It's not hyper, guys. We would need to be closer to 1,000 horsepower, but still 600 horsepower is what they're targeting. And an RX, I don't know what world we're living in, but I'm liking the sounds of this. There are front and rear motors, so more than likely there's going to be the same sort of setup. Can the 6-speed auto that we currently have handle that sort of power? I don't know. Maybe they have to change to a different transmission. The G20E, which is within the same family in theory as the G16E, but I think it's actually a step further than the G16E found in the Morizo LBX or the GR Corolla, for example. It's aiming for a maximum output of 300 horsepower just from the engine, but that's not hybridized. And they've also confirmed that there are racing specs of this engine to have 600 horsepower. That would not be going into this RX Morizo. It'd probably be a 400 horsepower variant, and then you'd be getting an extra 200 horsepower from the electrified assist. Does that mean we would be seeing about 500 horsepower to the front wheels? That sounds absolutely awful. All right. I think they can't go the same route as the RX 500H. There'd just be too much power and torque to the front wheels. Now, they could still have an electric motor up there, but I think that would be mainly for energy generation for the hybrid battery. I think the majority of the power needs to be sent to an e-axle in the back for electrified assist. Otherwise, you'd just be spinning your front wheels all day long. They remind us that it'll be in the next gen Supra. I don't know about that. I hope we don't get just an inline 4 in a next gen Supra. I want inline 6 in the next gen Supra, but Toyota decided not to design one and decided to build the twin turbo V6 that's given them all sorts of reliability issues and recalls on the Sequoia, the Tundra, the LX, etc. And the new Celica should be getting this or/MR2, which it could be mid-engine, but we're not here to talk about that. This is a Lexus RX showcase today. An electric four-wheel drive SUV that surpasses the existing F-Sport. It's not hard to surpass the existing F-Sport. The existing F-Sport has 366 horsepower and something like 406 pound-feet of torque. Now, they're saying that there was supposed to be this vehicle at the Tokyo Auto Salon this past January, but it did not come out. This vehicle was also said to be testing around Nürburgring, but delays in the development of the powertrain meant that the test runs cannot be conducted on site. I'm pretty convinced, if this vehicle exists, which I'm about 75% sure on, that when we hear an official announcement from Toyota or Lexus, it's going to be at the Japan Mobility Show this fall, where they're going to show not only this vehicle potentially, but definitely the production version of the LFZC new gigacasted software-defined battery electric vehicles. Now, they're saying that this vehicle is going to be coming at the halfway point of the current RX's model life. Well, that means here we are in 2025, but this came out in 2022. So we're almost halfway through. I would say next year is going to be the halfway point for this generation RX. And then, like I said, we'll get into the next generation, what we're hearing about it already. And this kind of reminds me a little bit of the GR Corolla. The GR Corolla was introduced about midway of the product cycle on the standard Corolla hatchback. Now, translations couldn't get this piece right. They're saying that the G20E 2-liter inline-4 turbo is expected to be installed in an the date's not right, but a Toyota GT3 car. It will be equipped with electric motors at the front and the rear and will be a plug-in hybrid, making it a car packed with technology. Could this be a plug-in hybrid on the RX? I don't even know what they would call it. They're just going to call it Morizo RR more than likely. They might not even give it a number. It wouldn't be like an RX 800H plus. It could, they could, but they'd probably just call it Lexus RX Morizo RR, and it would be a plug-in hybrid, more than likely to get that extra power to the rear motor. They're saying its main competitors would be an X5M and SQ8, and they're looking to rival some of those vehicles that have the 4-liter twin-turbo V8s. This high-performance model will not retain the F name, and it will likely be called the Morizo RR following the LBX. It is expected that its selling points will be its performance and boldness, surpassing the S-Sport performance already present in the RX, the 500H, and the exterior will be given a special bumper to create a different look from existing grades. Naturally, the suspension will be specially tuned, and it may be lowered about 20 millimeters. Of course, it goes without saying, it will be equipped with dynamic rear steering, of course. And the car is expected to debut in 2026. And we may see it racing at Nürburgring as early as this summer. So if we start seeing this racing around Nürburgring this summer, I'll make an update because this is huge for Lexus. For them to retire F, essentially, as the RCF has been discontinued. F Sports, who knows what the future of F Sports is going to be? With the new ES, they didn't reveal an F Sport with that vehicle. But we have the RZ550E F Sport Performance. So I just feel like if they're killing off F Sport is surely to fall as well. But I don't know what that mid-grade is going to be. If the top grades that used to be F are now going to be called Morizo RR, which I don't know how to feel about it. I'm just happy that they're giving us performance models. What is the mid-grade going to be that is F Sport or F Sport Performance? Would it be Morizo single R? That would make logical sense. And who knows what a base sport like F Sport Appearance package would become. Morizo Appearance? I have no idea. And this is equally as big of news in my opinion. If MagX is correct about this, this is what we've been waiting for. Apparently, Lexus is going to abandon full electrification plans, focusing on plug-in hybrids and other hybrids. And this is why Lexus is going to have their own battery electric vehicle factory in Shanghai to make vehicles for that market, which has an insatiable appetite for just battery electrics as well as e-revs. So we're going to have two different standards of Lexus models. You have Chinese EV models essentially, and then you're going to have global models that are going to be available in hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and potentially fully battery electric models as well. So you could have an RX BEV. Feel like that's just going to be really strange to have an RX BEV, even though maybe they'll do that on the Toyota side, but the Lexus side, I don't know. With this new GigaCast platform, software-defined platform, high-performance batteries, I'm just not quite sure how they could have two different standards of EVs in the lineup. Maybe a lower-cost EV, which would be like an RX EV, and then maybe a flagship EVs, which are GigaCasted and better batteries. I'm just not quite sure. But let's get into this focus on plug-in hybrids. These will be coming after 2027. So end of 2027, I doubt it. Remember, this Morizo RR RX is coming probably by the end of 2026. So end of 2027 doesn't make sense. So we're probably 2028, 2029 would be my guess for a redesigned RX with next-gen hybrids. Toyota has announced the development of a PHEV plug-in hybrid that can run 200 kilometers without using fuel. But guys, that's like in the Japanese cycle more than likely. So if we do 200 kilometers times 0.62, that's in miles, but it's probably something like 82 miles. Now, the new RAV4 hybrid has 50 miles of EPA range, but we're going to be getting closer to 100 miles of range here. Which is just fantastic. They're saying that it's essentially going to be the same TNGA-K platform, but just improved, which is no surprise. We saw that with the Camry. All right, Camry was already on the K. It got updated on the K. It's way better than the old Camry, despite it using the same platform. We know that the RAV4, the newly redesigned RAV4, same platform, but they've added so much more rigidity to the vehicle. It's going to feel completely different. They'll do the same thing to the RX here as well. They're saying essentially the invisible parts of the vehicle, the interior, the seat frame, the air conditioning ducts are going to be carried over. And they want to reduce costs, of course, and possibly share as much with the new ES and current models. So the new ES is essentially using the same 5th gen hybrid platform and powertrain as the Camry, but it's rated higher, probably in premium fuel. It's supposed to get like 242 horsepower, somewhere around there. And that's probably an all-wheel drive as well. This new RX, it would be there, maybe even more power, but right around 240 to 250 on the 350h hybrids. Then you would, of course, have a Morizo RR with 600 horsepower hybrid, and then you would have the new plug-in hybrid with 80 miles of range and probably 400 to 500 horsepower. It just depends on what kind of engine. If they use the 2-liter turbo, the new 2-liter turbo, which is minimum 300 horsepower with the plug-in hybrid, yeah, you'll be at 400 plus horsepower pretty easily with the plug-in hybrid, if not more. So I just felt like sharing that. There wasn't a lot of details on this next gen RX, but the big detail is, hey, they're not going to go full EV with the new RX in 2028, 2029 when it comes out, and there's going to be really long range plug-in hybrids with it as well. So guys, thank you for watching. Let's hope the Morizo RR is real. I'm like I said, I'm fairly certain that this vehicle is coming out. It has to. If Lexus wants to be taken seriously like they used to with the F models, then they need to show it off. And what better way to show it off than the best-selling vehicle here in the United States with an RX Morizo RR 600 horsepower plug-in hybrid monster. All right. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more Lexus coverage on the channel, and have a great day.